Most people wake up thinking their morning coffee is harmless comfort, a routine they've trusted for years. But inside some of the most familiar American brands, what you're actually drinking is chemical residue, mold toxins, harsh additives, and over-processed beans stripped of everything coffee is supposed to be. For seniors watching Heart Health, for families with teenagers chugging iced coffee trends, for anyone drinking multiple cups a day, these hidden dangers build up slowly, silently, and permanently. Today, we're exposing 8 US coffee brands you should never drink again, including some sitting in millions of American kitchens right now. And at the end, we'll reveal 2 clean brands you actually can trust, with real testing, real transparency, and real coffee, not the industrial shortcuts the big companies hope you never find out about. Maxwell House has been a classic for more than 130 years. That blue container has sat on shelves since your grandparents were kids. Its slogan once promised, "Good to the last drop," which convinced generations it must be safe and consistent. But when independent food scientists began testing mass-market coffees between 2017 and 2022, Maxwell House repeatedly landed among the worst in mold contamination and acrylamide levels. Acrylamide forms when beans are roasted at extremely high temperatures, often used to salvage low-quality beans. That compound is a probable human carcinogen. The mold toxin levels were even more concerning. Ochratoxin A kidney-damaging fungal toxin, showed up in multiple batches of their ground and instant lines. The company never issued warnings, never clarified sourcing, never acknowledged quality issues. Flip the container and you'll notice how little information they give. No harvest date, no origin, no testing disclosures. Just the word coffee, as if that tells you anything meaningful. Open a fresh jar and smell it. There's no layered aroma, no natural oils, nothing that signals quality. Just a flat, dusty smell of beans roasted until every nuance is burnt away. Brew a cup and watch the surface. Real coffee leaves a thin, natural sheen of oils floating. Maxwell House looks lifeless, matte, like brown water pretending to be coffee. For seniors with compromised kidney or liver health, ochratoxin exposure accumulates slowly and irreversibly. For families trying to keep teenagers away from chemicals, this brand offers no transparency at all. A classic name doesn't mean a safe cup. It just means a century of marketing and a dangerous amount of trust. Dunkin coffee feels American. Drive-thrus, highway exits, airport kiosks. Dunkin is everywhere. Most people think the bagged version sold in grocery stores matches what's brewed in their shops. It doesn't. Grocery store Dunkin coffee is a separate supply chain with dramatically lower standards. In 2021, consumer watchdog labs detected multiple pesticide residues in several Dunkin blends, including chemicals banned in the EU but still allowed in certain US imports. These pesticides are linked to hormone disruption, fertility issues, and neurotoxicity with long-term exposure. Dunkin never addressed these findings publicly. Even worse, the company provides no batch-level testing, no transparency on where beans come from, and no indication of whether they test for mold toxins at all. Open a bag of their original blend, and the smell is oddly uniform. No rise of natural aromatics, no brightness, just a dull roast that smells more like burnt cereal than coffee. Pour the beans into your hand and notice how many are chipped, broken, or oddly shaped. That's the signature of cheap commodity beans swept up from multiple farms, blended together to produce a consistent taste that hides inconsistent quality. Seniors drinking Dunkin at home sometimes notice increased heartburn or stomach irritation. That's often the result of low elevation, poorly processed beans, which naturally contain more acidity and more contaminants when handled in bulk. Dunkin is fast, familiar, convenient, but that doesn't mean the coffee in your grocery aisle is safe or anything like what you think you're buying. Then there's Kirkland signature coffee sold at Costco. Costco earns trust because of its reputation for bulk value and strict vendor standards. But coffee is the exception. Behind the Kirkland label are multiple rotating suppliers, some batches from Colombian farms, some from Mexican, some from Vietnam, some from Brazil, without consistent testing or published reports. Independent tests between 2018 and 2023 found several Kirkland blends containing elevated mold toxins, especially ochratoxin A, which thrives in humid storage conditions. Coffee beans absorb moisture easily, and when vendors source bulk beans from multiple farms with inconsistent drying practices, contamination becomes almost impossible to control. Kirkland offers no harvest information, no origin breakdown, no roasting date, nothing that helps you know what you're drinking. Open one of their big 3-pound containers and pay attention to the smell. Good coffee has a complex, rising aroma. Kirkland coffee smells flat and stale from the moment you open it because the beans were roasted months before packaging and likely sat in transit even longer. Brew a cup and watch the color. The brew often looks thin, weak, with a muddy transparency. That muddy look is often a sign of old beans that lost structure and released microscopic particles during grinding. For budget-conscious families, Kirkland seems like a smart choice, but low-priced bulk coffee almost always means compromised sourcing. Saving a few dollars isn't worth exposing your body to toxins that silently accumulate for years. Yuban is another brand many households recognized for decades, marketed as a premium supermarket coffee that once promised sustainable sourcing. That ended years ago, when Kraft sold off parts of its coffee operations and shifted Yuban's sourcing model. Everything changed. Yuban quietly stopped using 100% certified coffee, but kept the nostalgic branding to make consumers believe nothing changed. Independent tests from 2016 onward consistently placed Yuban among coffees with high acrylamide levels, especially in its dark roast varieties, which rely on extreme heat to cover inconsistent bean quality. High heat destroys antioxidants and increases carcinogenic byproducts. But the bigger issue is Yuban's near-total opacity. They disclose almost nothing about farms, drying methods, harvest dates, mold testing, or pesticide residue. Open a can and shake it. Notice how fine the grind is, almost powdery. Industrial grinders intentionally grind cheap beans ultrafine to create artificial strength, masking the fact that the beans themselves are low quality. Brew it, and you'll see a dark but dull cup, with no aroma and a bitterness that hits instantly. It's not true bitterness from dark roast artistry, it's chemical bitterness from shoddy beans cooked to death. For seniors, this harshness can irritate the stomach and inflame acid reflux. For families trying to avoid unnecessary chemicals, Yuban offers no safety assurances whatsoever. Starbucks built one of the most powerful reputations in the coffee world: premium beans, ethical sourcing, skilled baristas, a global standard of quality. But the Starbucks coffee sold in grocery stores is not the same product served in their cafes. Most people don't realize these are two different supply chains with two drastically different quality levels. Grocery store Starbucks beans are mass roasted in enormous industrial batches, often months before they reach shelves. Coffee is a perishable food. It loses its essential oils, aromas, and antioxidants within weeks. But Starbucks packaged beans often sit in transit, storage, and stocking cycles far longer. By the time you open a bag, the product is already stale. Independent lab tests have identified Starbucks grocery store beans, especially the dark roasts, as having some of the highest acrylamide levels among commercial coffees. Why? Because deep roasting scorches the beans to hide flavor inconsistencies, and scorched beans produce acrylamide, a suspected carcinogen. Open a bag of Starbucks French roast from the supermarket. The smell isn't rich, it's sharp and bitter, almost smoky in a way real coffee isn't supposed to smell. Pour out the beans and look at them closely. You'll notice they're oily yet brittle, old beans forced to carry an aggressive roast. Brew them and taste the result. It's harsh, ashy, and lingers on the tongue like burnt paper. Seniors who already struggle with acid reflux find Starbucks grocery store blends especially triggering. Families who assume Starbucks equals quality are unknowingly consuming a burned, chemically compromised coffee designed to be shelf-stable, not fresh. The brand built its trust in cafes, then leveraged that trust to sell a completely different product in stores. You deserve better than a stale, carcinogen-heavy imitation of the in-store brew. Seattle's Best sounds like a boutique roaster from the Pacific Northwest. Craft, quality, care. In reality, it's owned by Starbucks and used as their budget brand, designed to capture the low-cost grocery aisle. But budget coffee always hides something, and Seattle's Best hides a lot. Consumer tests across multiple years found Seattle's Best among the coffees with the highest acrylamide levels. The roasting process is even harsher than Starbucks' primary line, designed to destroy inconsistencies and disguise the low-grade beans inside. This level of heat not only strips flavor, but creates chemical byproducts linked to inflammation and long-term health problems. Open a bag of Seattle's Best and smell it. Instead of a warm, roasted richness, you'll get something closer to burnt wood or charred paper. Shake the beans inside the bag. You'll hear a brittle rattle. That's the sound of over-roasted beans that have lost all moisture and vitality. Brew a cup and pay attention to the flavor profile. It hits your tongue with bitterness, then drops off immediately, leaving no sweetness, no body, just a harsh aftertaste. Real coffee has complexity. This tastes more like burnt residue. For seniors sensitive to sharp, acidic brews, Seattle's Best can trigger stomach irritation. For families brewing this because it's cheap, remember, low prices are often a sign that corners were cut everywhere else. Donut Shop is one of the best-selling K-Cup brands in the US. It sounds nostalgic, comforting, like the kind of coffee you'd get at a classic diner. But the flavored Donut Shop pods are among the most chemically manipulated coffees on the American market. Flavored K-Cups don't get their flavor from the coffee itself. They get it from chemical aromatic compounds, stabilizers, and solvents, some of which mimic vanilla or hazelnut flavors, but none of which come from natural ingredients. These artificial flavors often contain propylene glycol and other processing agents that the FDA allows, but many health experts caution against when consumed daily. Now combine those chemicals with the K-Cup brewing environment. A Keurig heats water to nearly 200 degrees Fahrenheit inside a soft plastic pod. Numerous studies demonstrate that plastics, especially when heated, release microplastics and hormone-disrupting phthalates into the liquid passing through them. Open a used Donut Shop flavored pod and inhale. The scent doesn't smell like coffee, it smells like candy perfume. Overly sweet, artificial, almost plasticky. Brew a cup and you'll notice the flavor hits instantly because lab-made flavorings are designed to do just that. Real coffee flavor builds gradually and has depth. Chemical flavoring hits like a wall. For seniors or people with respiratory sensitivities, the synthetic compounds can cause irritation. For families letting teenagers drink flavored coffee, this exposes them to chemical additives long before they understand the risks. Donut Shop flavors hide their problems behind playfulness, but candy-flavored coffee brewed inside plastic is a dangerous combination. McDonald's is known for consistency. When they expanded into at-home coffee with McCafe K-Cups, many assumed that same quality would carry over. But these pods hide two major dangers: the quality of the beans and the brewing method itself. McDonald's sources enormous quantities of coffee from multiple global regions. That scale makes true quality control nearly impossible. The company does not publish mold testing results or pesticide screening data, and the beans inside McCafe pods are often old, stored too long, or roasted aggressively to create an artificial uniformity. Open an unbrewed McCafe K-Cup and smell the grounds. They have a faint sourness, an indicator of beans that oxidized long before packaging. Brew a cup and look at the surface. There's no natural sheen, no oils, just a thin foamy film caused by pressure inside the pod. But the biggest issue is microplastics. A study conducted in Canada found that every major K-Cup brand tested released microplastics into brewed coffee. McCafe pods are no exception. Those microscopic particles enter the bloodstream, lodge in organs, and are extremely difficult for the body to eliminate. For seniors with declining kidney function, daily microplastic exposure creates a long-term burden. For families drinking multiple pods a day, this isn't just coffee. It's plastic-infused liquid in a convenient disguise. Purity coffee is the gold standard for people who want coffee to support their health rather than quietly undermine it. Unlike the major commercial brands that hide their testing behind corporate silence, Purity openly publishes third-party lab results for every single batch they produce, results covering mold toxins, pesticide residues, heavy metals, and acrylamide. That level of transparency is almost unheard of in the coffee industry, where secrecy and vague marketing claims have become normal. The reason Purity stands out is because they built their brand backwards compared to everyone else. Instead of asking, how can we make cheaper coffee? They asked, how can we create the healthiest coffee possible? That question led them to regenerative organic farms, where coffee is grown in clean soil without chemical fertilizers or synthetic pesticides. Coffee absorbs whatever is in the soil. If the soil is polluted, the beans will be too. Purity ensures that the land itself is clean long before the beans ever reach your cup. Open a bag of Purity and the smell alone tells a story. It's fresh, bright, layered with natural aromatics. There's no burnt scent, no harshness. The beans look uniform, rich brown with a gentle sheen of natural oils that indicate careful roasting. Brew a cup and you'll notice the difference instantly. The flavor is smooth, clear, clean. It doesn't claw at your throat or leave bitterness sitting on your tongue. You don't feel heavy afterward. You don't feel acidic. You feel awake and energized without the jittery crash cheap coffee creates. For seniors fighting inflammation, Purity's high antioxidant content helps counter oxidative stress rather than add to it. For families trying to avoid hidden toxins, this is one of the very few coffees with nothing to hide. Purity doesn't just avoid the problems, pesticides, microplastics, mold, it elevates coffee back into something beneficial. This is what coffee is supposed to taste like when it's grown right, harvested responsibly, and roasted with respect instead of cost-cutting. LifeBoost solves one of the biggest problems people face when drinking coffee every day: acidity. Most commercial coffees, especially the cheap ones, cause heartburn, digestive discomfort, acid reflux, and that unpleasant burn in the throat. Many brands claim to solve this by treating the beans. LifeBoost doesn't need tricks. Their coffee is naturally low acid because of where and how it's grown. LifeBoost beans are planted high in the Nicaraguan mountains, where slow-growing conditions create beans with fewer acidic compounds. High altitude forces the coffee cherries to develop more slowly, allowing sugars to mature and harsh acids to break down naturally. Combine that with shade-grown farming and spring water irrigation, and you get one of the cleanest natural coffee environments in the world. Every batch of LifeBoost is USDA, organic, fair trade certified, and third-party tested for mycotoxins, the mold toxins responsible for so many of the health problems found in bargain coffee brands. The beans are single origin, meaning you know exactly where your bag came from. There's no blending of mystery beans, no mixing of harvests, no covering up bad batches by throwing them into a bigger lot. What you see is what you get. Open a bag of LifeBoost and the aroma is mellow, earthy, and comforting. The beans feel firm and fresh, not brittle or oily. Brew a cup and the first thing you notice is the absence of pain. No stomach burn, no throat irritation, no acidic punch. Just a smooth, clean, full-bodied flavor that feels gentle on your system. For seniors with GERD, people with IBS or sensitive digestion, pregnant women avoiding harsh foods, or anyone tired of acidic store-bought coffee tearing up their gut, LifeBoost offers coffee that respects the body. LifeBoost also avoids the aggressive, scorching roasts used by mass-market brands to hide cheap beans. Their medium roast keeps antioxidants intact and prevents acrylamide buildup. This is coffee that doesn't fight you, it supports you. But now you know better. You know which brands use the cheapest possible beans, sourced from farms with no testing, no transparency, and no accountability. You know which companies roast their coffee at extreme temperatures to hide defects and create carcinogens in the process. You know which brands rely on plastic pods that release microplastics into your cup. You know which coffees carry mold toxins and pesticide residues that build up silently inside your body over years. You also know that clean, safe, truly high-quality coffee still exists. You know that companies like Purity Coffee and LifeBoost Coffee test their batches, protect their farms, and publish their results. You know that real coffee should have depth, aroma, vitality, and natural oils. You know that clean coffee shouldn't leave your stomach burning or your throat scratching. You know that coffee can energize without harming, and now you know which brands honor that promise. Go check your kitchen. Look at the coffee sitting on your shelf. If you see the names we expose today, you don't need to finish the bag. You don't need to justify keeping it just because you already bought it. Your health is worth more than a few dollars of leftover grounds. Replace it with something clean, something tested, something transparent. Your mornings will feel different. Your energy will feel different. Your body will feel different. Coffee should lift you, not harm you. And now you know which brands protect your health, and which ones never cared in the first place. Every morning, millions of Americans pour cups of coffee believing they're drinking something simple and familiar. But behind the labels of Maxwell House, Folgers, Dunkin, Kirkland, Starbucks grocery blends, Seattle's Best, Donut Shop flavored pods, and McCafe K-Cups lies a darker reality of shortcuts, secrecy, contamination, and cost-driven decisions. These brands rely on the fact that coffee is habitual. They trust that you won't look deeper, that you won't question the bitter taste or the burnt smell or the low price or the watery brew. They count on routine, they count on nostalgia, they count on convenience, and they count on silence.